Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Perlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Perlman.
Hello. We are going to be talking about mountain search and rescues, especially in Southern California, with my guest, Dr. Richard Yocum. He is the current president of the Riverside Mountain Rescue Unit, an all-volunteer, nonprofit mountain rescue team specializing in snow and ice and technical rope rescue, operating under the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. He has also been the operations leader and past president of the San Diego Mountain Rescue Team and search manager with the San Diego Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue Team. His professional career in life science and healthcare comprised 11 years of clinical practice in general internal medicine, followed by 30 years of biopharmaceutical clinical drug development. He has authored or co-authored over 59 scientific publications. He's been a founding member of the Search Management Unit of the San Diego County Sheriff's Office Search and Rescue, and he is a member of the Medical Committee of the International Mountain Rescue Association and maintains active certification as a wilderness first responder. He volunteers as a board member and director of the Core Medical Group of Mountain Disaster Preparedness in Idlewild, California. As well as serving as a member of the Mountain Rescue Association, he is a retired internal medical physician and a member of the RMRU Medical Committee. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We met in Idlewild, California, in the San Jacinto Mountains in Riverside County with many of your members of your rescue team. I was surprised to hear that your group has over 43 rescues per year. That is almost one a week. Why are there so many rescues?
We average 43 missions a year. The most common reason we're called out on a search and rescue mission is for hikers. About 2/3 of our missions are hikers that are either lost or overdue, just exhausted or cold, or injured or potentially have a medical problem. That's the most common reason we're called out, but the team responds to a large variety of missions that can include climbers as well, or mountain bikers. We do evidence searches for the sheriff's team, and sometimes we look for missing persons, occasionally a missing person with, say, Alzheimer's disease or a child with autism.
Not only do you work in Riverside County, but sometimes your team is called to other areas of Southern California?
That is correct. It's common for teams to be called for mutual aid missions, and that's organized through the California Office of Emergency Services. And each year, my Riverside team is called out of county about 3 to 5 times.
And there must be thousands of rescues throughout the country, particularly in wilderness areas and forests, parks.
Yes, there certainly are. The number of call-outs per team varies widely. Some teams are on the order of 20 to 30, and others are in the more than 200 calls. So I'm sure that number is well into the thousands across the United States.
You would actually prefer that you don't have to be called, that there wouldn't be people in need. So you are actively promoting safe hiking tips. What are some of those so that people are prepared? I know that when I started mountain climbing, we learned that we had to carry the 10 essentials. What are they?
Yes, carrying the 10 essentials is certainly a very important thing for hikers to know. I have my own list that I've developed, and I've come by this list after my 13 years in search and rescue. Based on the incidents I've seen, number one on that list is to not hike alone. Unless you're very experienced, you know exactly what you're doing, and you've got excellent navigational skills. I also tell people it's important to check the weather forecast, not only the day before you go, but the morning you go, because the weather in the mountains can change very quickly. It's important to have a realistic appraisal of your own abilities, as well as those that you may hike with, and to not push your limit. Another mistake I commonly see is people not telling someone else where they're going to be. It's important to let someone know at home what your intended itinerary is, when you expect to return, and not only when you expect to return, but tell them what time they should pick up the phone and report you missing. I'll also add that time and time again, I see people that they'll pack for their day hike based upon the hike they expect, not considering the possibility of an accident. So I do recommend that everyone take not just what you think you need, but take that extra food, extra water, extra clothing. Make sure you have some light source other than a cell phone. Even if you don't plan to be out after dark, take an extra battery for that light source. The cell phone is one of your most important pieces of equipment. I would add that to the list of the 10 essentials. And take an extra charger for your cell phone so it can be recharged if it gets low.
These are absolutely excellent suggestions, and I hope that people follow them, because having my mountain cabin at 5,000 feet, but the San Jacinto Peak is over 10,000 feet, people from Palm Springs in the desert will take a tramway up to 8,000 feet and hike up, and they don't realize they're in the mountains, not in the desert. They don't have water, they don't have extra clothing, they don't have the proper shoes. There are a lot of inexperienced people that don't realize what they're getting into. A little research might help.
Absolutely. We see this. We see people riding the tram up in the winter with shorts and flip-flops. As you know from being up there, just walking down that ramp from the upper tram station, if it's slippery, that could be the most hazardous part of your hike up there.
There's also in the mountains that I go to a very internationally recognized Lily Rock near Taquit's Peak, because it is so close to a easy parking lot. Inexperienced rock climbers will start going on it, and it seems like somebody's always getting injured every year there.
You're correct. We do each year have 1 or 2 or 3 missions regarding climbers on Lily Rock, and sometimes across the valley on the companion suicide rock. And unfortunately, occasionally those are fatalities. So we definitely don't like to see that happen.
People should know that that is, again, an internationally recognized rock. Rock climbing is characterized by levels, and it has routes that are very, very difficult only for the most experienced with ropes, and you should know what you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. You need to know what you're doing. And most climbers would be able to tell you that rating system, the Yosemite rating system, even though it carries the name Yosemite, was actually conceived right there at Lily Rock in Idlewild.
You personally worked as a medical physician, so you obviously know how to treat a health condition when you find somebody in the wild. Do the rescue team members have to take special first aid training to be able to help in medical situations?
Yes, every rescue team member has to have, at a minimum, at least a first aid and CPR certification. We actually train to a much higher level. Many people on our team have an EMT certification, what we refer to as a wilderness first aid certification. And on the Riverside Mountain Rescue Team, we actually now, at this time, have 3 or 4 MDs. So we do have a lot of medical skills on the team. I would hasten to add that medical is only one of the many skills. Being on a mountain rescue team means that you have to remain proficient not only in medical skills, but also land navigation, human tracking, technical rope rescue, and snow and ice travel.
You have to be physically able to hike and carry weight.
Yes, absolutely. Maintaining physical fitness is a big part of being on the team as well, especially when we head out on a winter mission and we've got winter gear as well as technical rope gear and a lot of equipment to keep us warm. As a Mountain Rescue Association team, we're expected to be self-sufficient in the field for up to 72 hours. So it's not uncommon for us to head out on those type of missions with a backpack that weighs 55 pounds or more.
When I started hiking in the Sierras and the local desert mountains and our other mountains here in Southern California, I started reading about first aid. It really didn't help. It said, well, when you really have a problem, call 911. Well, that's not really possible.
It isn't possible, but over my years in search and rescue, I've seen our work change dramatically through to advances in technology. We now have much more sophisticated mapping ability and the ability generally to monitor where each of our SAR personnel is in the field from our incident command post. Another advance is the ability to transmit GPS coordinates for a location, not only by a cell phone, but also by what we call these satellite communicators, typically a Garmin device. So more and more, when we have a call out for someone in the wilderness, we find ourselves not so much having to start from scratch looking looking for that person, but actually working from an initial set of coordinates. On that point, I'd like to emphasize another really thing is that if you are lost, especially if someone knows, at least in general, where you are, or you've made that 911 call so someone knows set of coordinates, it's very, very important to stay where you are. Just sit down and make yourself comfortable, keep yourself warm, stay in place, because it's so much harder to find someone who's actually moving, a moving target through the wilderness. Again, we often teach the program called Hug a Tree for the younger hikers to emphasize that concept.
It's tempting to keep moving and think you can get yourself down, but when you really are lost or in need, it's better, as you say, hug the tree, stay put, let people who know what they're doing come and help you.
Absolutely.
That is something that is so important, to make sure that you know what you're doing and follow your advice, follow the suggestions that you have presented to be safe. But we want people to go out and enjoy nature. We want people to go out and hike and not worry. I know in our local mountains, I want to see the wild mountain lion, but it's probably watching me and I never get to see it. The wildlife really isn't something that I have to worry about, is it?
No, it's actually probably about the least of your worries.
The domestic dogs that people let off the leash when there's leash laws, that's what bothers me. They come and bite you.
Statistically, I'm sure it's a bigger risk than running into a mountain lion or a bear.
And of course, in our mountains, they unfortunately killed off the bears back in the 50s, so I hope maybe one day the bears will be reintroduced along with many of the other beautiful wildlife that the ecosystem can provide for. I am curious, what motivated you to volunteer? All of your mountain rescue people are volunteers, and that takes time and energy and practice. Why do you do it?
I had a tragedy very early in my life. When I was 20 years old, I lost both of my parents in a plane crash. It took those searchers 4.5 hours to even reach the crash site, and that's stuck with me all these years. In the back of my mind, I think I always wanted maybe to be a part of that effort. And then later in life, I was doing a lot of recreational hiking, and I remember each day as I was passing by a sign at a trailhead, there was a recruiting poster for the rescue team, and I felt like it was just calling out to me. I figured I could use my medical skills, put them to good use, and rather than just going out and doing my recreational hikes, I could be actually contributing to society at the same time.
So commendable, and I want to thank you so very much for making that commitment. Personal experiences do motivate us to become activists and do what we can in many different ways, but because of your medical knowledge, you have also served on international organizations. Is it different search and rescues in other places than what we have here in Southern California?
There are differences, not so much across the United States, although certainly climate and terrain makes a big difference. In the West Coast, we've got big mountains with snow, not so much experience on the East Coast unless you get up into the White Mountains in New England. Things are different in Europe. Additionally, in terms of one of the important aspects is whether you actually pay for your rescue. And I get asked this question a lot, and sometimes people who need to be rescued ask the question, and that is, do they have to pay to be rescued? And it's important for them to know that they don't. And the reason why we don't want people to worry about that is because we don't want them to delay their call for help. The longer they wait to call 911 when they're in trouble, the more likely they are to be in bigger trouble, whether it's progressive hypothermia or their body's response to an injury or the degree to which they're lost. So we do not charge for rescues in the U.S., but things are different in parts of Europe in that regard.
Do we need to get special insurance to go out into the wild?
I've seen that is recommended in Europe, but not necessarily in the U.S. I think just having whatever insurance you would have for an injury in any other type of setting is appropriate.
You also spent decades doing biopharmaceutical clinical drug development. Is that related at all to rescues?
I don't think my work in that field is directly related, but parts of search and rescue that attract me are the analytical part of that, and that was a big part of my profession in that field. I enjoy being out in the field and being the person that is looking for and maybe actually finds that missing subject. That's a really fulfilling moment to be in that situation. But I also enjoy working in in the incident command post. I think of it as a combination of solving a mystery because you've got bits and pieces of information coming in, especially early parts of the search where some of it may be inaccurate and misleading, but also part chess game because you have different types of search and rescue assets, whether it's a ground team or a drone or a helicopter. The challenge is applying the appropriate resource at the right time in the right location. I do find very interesting that intellectual part of running a mission.
I want to thank you so very much for all the service that you have provided. I'm sure all the people you have helped rescue are very thankful that you were willing to go out, risk your life to help save their life. Thank you so very much for all the good work that you do. Your volunteer rescue group is a nonprofit organization. How do you work with sheriff's offices?
In counties in California, it's the elected sheriff who has the primary responsibility for search and rescue type operations. So the Riverside Mountain Rescue Unit, like many volunteer teams, works under the local sheriff's department. Our team of volunteers cannot self-deploy. If we get a call from someone who needs help, that has to go through the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office has to make the decision about whether our team is activated or not.
Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much.
I have been speaking with Dr. Richard Yocum, who is current president of the Riverside Mountain Rescue Unit, and he is also a medical doctor in internal medicine. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.